The flickering candlelight danced in her wide, scared eyes. She was sitting there for what felt like hours in her room with the door slightly open and listening intently. "There's someone out there," she whispered to herself, hugging her teddy bear tightly. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows, and the old house creaked ominously. She couldn't help but shiver. Her parents had told her countless stories of the old house settling at night, of pipes expanding and contracting with the temperature changes, of the wind playing tricks on her young ears. But tonight was different. Tonight, she could hear footsteps pacing just outside her door, and she knew whatever was out there wasn't any of those things. She squeezed her teddy bear, willing herself to be brave, to be bold, to call out to whoever was out there. But all that came out was a small, shaky voice. "Hello." Silence. Then she heard it again. Footsteps pacing just outside her door. Whoever or whatever was out there was getting closer. It was just her imagination, she told herself. Just her imagination. And then the doorknob started to turn. Her heart pounded in her chest, echoing the sound of the footsteps. The doorknob turned further. She closed her eyes tight, burying her face in her teddy bear. She didn't want to see whatever was out there. And then the door opened. "Boo," a voice said. Startled, she looked up to see her brother standing there grinning from ear to ear. He was holding a flashlight, and the beam danced in his excited eyes. "Gotcha," he said, laughing. She let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "You scared me," she said, hitting him lightly on the shoulder. He stuck his tongue out at her and then turned off the light, plunging them into darkness. "Mom and Dad are coming," he said. "They were gone, tuck you in, and then I am gone, get you a present." She frowned. "A present?" He just smiled mysteriously and left the room, closing the door behind him. Left alone in the dark once more, she tried to calm her racing heartbeat. Maybe her brother was right, she thought. Maybe it was just her imagination. She snuggled deeper into her blankets, pulling her teddy bear close. But sleep wouldn't come. As the night wore on, she heard more footsteps pacing outside her door. Footsteps that were definitely not her brother's. She heard the distinct sound of dragging metal moans that sent shivers down her spine. And then she heard a voice, a raspy, guttural voice, whispering just outside her door. "Let me in. Please let me in." She buried her face in her blankets, hugging her teddy bear tightly. Whatever was out there wanted in. She was sure of it. Now she could feel the vibrations of the footsteps as they shook the floorboards directly beneath her bed. The voice continued to rasp. "Please, let me in. I won't hurt you. I just need your help." She didn't reply, but the scratching and shuffling sounds outside her door continued. She felt something cold and clammy brush against her leg, and she screamed, throwing her arms around her teddy bear. The scratching stopped abruptly. The voice seemed to fade away. But then she heard something new, a soft, insistent tapping. It sounded like fingernails tapping on the wood. She looked down to see that the tapping was coming from the footboard at the end of her bed. It was slow and steady, like a patient hand tapping out a rhythm. Then she saw it. A single fingernail, long and crooked, was tapping against the wood, and then another nail, and then another until the skeletal hand was pushing itself through the cracks in the footboard. She screamed again, burying her head under her blanket. The hand kept pushing, though, and soon enough, the entire arm was through, followed by a bony shoulder. Something was clawing its way into her room, into her sanctuary. She pulled her blanket up over her head, trying to block out the horrible sights and sounds. But then she felt something wet and slimy slither across her blankets. She screamed again, this time a desperate, primal scream that echoed through the old house. "Help!" she cried out. "Please, please help me." But no one came. No one ever came when she called for help. She could hear the scratching and clawing continuing, louder now, more frantic. She could feel the vibrations of the creature scrabbling on her bed as it tried to climb onto her mattress. Then she felt something cold and hard press against her neck. She froze, her eyes squeezed shut, waiting for the inevitable. But instead of the pain she expected, she felt a gentle nudge. She peeked one eye open to see the creature's face, inches from hers. It was old and withered, like a prune left out in the sun too long. Its skin was stretched tight over its bones, and its eyes were sunken and dark. One of its arms was grotesquely twisted at an unnatural angle, and its fingers were long and gnarled like the roots of an ancient tree. "Don't be afraid," the creature rasped, its voice like sandpaper on wood. "I won't hurt you. I just need your help." She stared back at it, her own fear slowly turning to confusion. "What do you want from me?" she whispered. The creature's expression seemed to soften. "Just listen to me," it said, leaning closer. "I've been watching you, child. I've been watching you for a long time." She could feel its hot, fetid breath on her face, and she recoiled slightly. "Why?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Why have you been watching me?" The creature's eyes seemed to flicker with something akin to sadness. "Because I knew you would understand," it whispered. "I knew you would help me." "Understand what?" she asked, her confusion growing. "Help you what?" The creature reached out a finger and gently stroked her cheek. Its touch was cold and slimy, and she flinched away from it. "Don't you recognize me, child?" it rasped. "Don't you remember our pact?" She shook her head, tears welling up in her eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I don't remember any pact. The creature's eyes seemed to darken with what she could almost swear was rage. You were meant to be my vessel, it hissed. You were meant to carry me, to help me return. She stared back at it, her mind struggling to grasp what the creature was saying. Return? She whispered. Return what? The creature snarled, its eyes blazing with anger. You know what I am? It hissed. You know what I need? She did know. She suddenly realized with a jolt. She knew what the creature was, what it needed. It was the same story her parents had told her about the old house. The house had been built on a burial ground, they'd said, and restless spirits were known to roam the halls at night. And this creature, this spirit, had chosen her as its vessel so that it could return to this world. But why? Why did it need her? Before she could ask, the creature lunged. She screamed as its cold, slimy hand clamped over her mouth, stifling her cry. She thrashed about, trying to claw at the creature's face, but its grip was too strong. She struggled against it, but its strength was unnatural, otherworldly. She could feel its essence seeping into her, corrupting her, twisting her insides. She felt her body change, her bones cracking and shifting, her skin growing cold and clammy. She could feel the creature's presence taking over her own, its will becoming her will. Then she saw her teddy bear lying on the floor, its stuffing spilling out of its ripped seams. And she saw the creature's eyes glinting with triumph. It had won. She had become its vessel. And as the first rays of sunlight peeked through her window, she knew she would never escape the curse of the old house.